For more on the latest U.S. airstrikes and the rising security threat of the IS, I'm joined in the studio by Kyle Olson. He's a security expert and a leading authority on high-tech terrorism and preparedness. I want to thank you for coming in. Let's talk about that dam, the significance, what you could see them envisioning if the IS were to get a hold of it.
Well, the conventional concern about losing the Mosul Dam is that it's a major source of power, a major source of irrigation, it's flood control, all the rest of it. And so the traditional, normal concern would be, well, you don't want to lose that piece of infrastructure. But with ISIS, and ISIS's demonstrated approach to handling its adversaries, which is to say the most extreme, most violent, most frightening kind of play, the possibility of them being able to control and ultimately open the floodgates of that dam, releasing that water down the watershed, that would be staggering. It would be devastating. It would be literally a weapon of mass destruction.
And not beyond what they might pull off.
No, the contrary. I think ISIS has demonstrated that they are prepared to do the unthinkable because it reinforces public perceptions or the perception of those who they're trying to cow, simply because they demonstrate that there are no limits.
About a year ago, you were sitting here, we were talking about chemical weapons in Syria, and the anniversary is today. Right. We're hearing some people who are saying, if President Obama here in the United States had taken action and really struck Syria, perhaps ISIS would not have formed the way it has. And obviously, hindsight's 20/20. But do you think there's any truth in that?
I don't think you can lay it all at the doorstep of the White House. There was certainly a reluctance on the part of the West in general to take action in Syria. Everyone was trying to find a negotiated solution or hoping for the best. Certainly the memorable, you can't cross this line, it's a red line, I'm going to do something about it, and we ended up jawboning it, and ultimately I think we did undermine the perception that the United States was prepared to take action, or the West was prepared to take action. But at the same time, I don't know that whether the U.S. had been carrying out strikes or trying to destabilize the Assad regime or whatever, whether that would have had any impact on ISIS. ISIS was boiling up. ISIS was looking for opportunities, and they were looking for the wedges and the gaps between the Syrian regime, the rebels, and also the vulnerabilities that were happening in Iraq. There were a lot of elements coming together.
The former CIA director was saying today that perhaps U.S. President Obama should reach out to Assad and say, hey, we may run a couple of air raids over and bomb. It seems kind of ironic a year ago that the United States government was thinking about bombing Assad's government forces and now maybe going to Syria to bomb ISIS, because obviously this is a porous border. Jessica was just talking about that. They can move back and forth. You really can't target them by just hitting them in Iraq, can you?
Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. ISIS scares the other powers, the other countries, ISIS scares Al-Qaeda. And not just because they're the pretty new girl on the street. ISIS is on the rise. Al-Qaeda seems to be fading away to some degree. They're losing in the recruiting battle for radicals, for radicalized Muslims in the region. ISIS seems to be doing a better job of recruiting Westerners to it, or Western citizens to its banner. It's not entirely beyond the realm of possibility that someone could look at striking that kind of a deal. But the bottom line is is right there, that this is a regional trans-border issue. It's one that impacts literally everyone. I think recently it was pointed out that one of the motivating factors for the Iranians in terms of helping to push al-Maliki out of office was the concern that if Iraq falls, ISIS is at their doorstep.
Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel was asked during that news conference today, should Americans or should Westerners be afraid of ISIS? Do they pose a threat to the West? And he said, before 9/11, many people in the United States never would have thought 9/11 would have occurred. How much of a threat are they?
Well, I think again, their demonstrated willingness to do the extreme, to go beyond the pale in terms of their actions. They've clearly stated that they are at war with the West. They've called for the death of Americans at every place along the way. And they've got resources. They are accumulating money. They are accumulating power. They're pumping and selling oil. They've got resources that Al-Qaeda never had. So yes, they're a threat.
90 airstrikes since August 8th, 57 of them in support of Iraqi troops near Mosul Dam. How effective are these airstrikes, do you think, and are they enough?
Well, I think in the tactical sense around the dam at Mosul itself, I think they were very effective. But they're going to become less effective over time. One, because ISIS didn't realize that they were in jeopardy of strikes like that. The United States seemed to say they weren't going to do it. They're going to become better at defending themselves, better at digging in, better at protecting themselves. That's why bombing raids tend to lose impact over a period of time. And the other factor is, again, the scope of operations. Protecting the dam at Mosul, getting refugees off the side of a mountain is one thing. Rolling back a disciplined, fanatic, and well-armed and equipped enemy is something you don't just do with a few Hellfire missiles.
All right, Kyle Olson, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.